Happy Halloween, Mustangs. This is Miss Loza, your teacher librarian, and I have some Halloween recommendations for you. If you are streaming this show or movie, you should be reading this book. So let's get started. First recommendation is the new book by Tiffany D. Jackson called White Smoke. This is hot off the presses. I have not had an opportunity to read it yet, but I'm very excited. Tiffany D. Jackson is one of my favorite young adult authors to come out of the last few years. She wrote Grown, Monday's Not Coming, and Allegedly, and this is her first ghost story. So reviews are describing this as The Haunting of Hill House meets Get Out, and it's about a girl named Marigold who moves from California to the Midwest, and she realizes that her house is not what it seems, and the town that they moved to are also not what they seem. So I'm pairing this one with the classic horror ghost story Poltergeist. It is rated PG and streaming on HBO Max. Next book recommendation is There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. This book came out a few years ago, and when I read it, it reminded me of the movie Scream. It's about a girl, Makani, who also moves from the west to the Midwest. She actually moves from Hawaii to a small town in Nebraska, and in her new school, she's able to make friends, but her other classmates start getting murdered. So suspicion immediately falls on her friend group, and she's sets out to prove their innocence. And in the meantime, she puts herself in danger. This is kind of a slasher teen book, and Netflix just released the movie, same name, There's Someone Inside Your House. And I really want to give you a warning and disclaimer. I did not have the same experience reading the book as watching the movie. It's kind of different when the material is in movie form than in book form. So I found it a lot gorier and a lot more violent than the book. So please make sure you check with your parents before watching. So Common Sense Media has it at 16 plus, and I think that's about right. So please check with your parents first, but we have the book available to check out in the library. Next up is a sci-fi horror book called Pitch Dark. I don't usually read sci-fi, but I got sucked into this one pretty quickly. It is set in the future, and humanity on planet Earth is not having a very good time. And there's a ship called the USS John Muir that kind of crash lands on planet Earth, and all of the crew has been asleep for centuries. But they have cargo that could potentially save humanity. And the main character is Laura Cruz, and she's a ship raider, so she has to work with the crew to battle some pretty bad monsters and hopefully save humanity. And it reminded me of another classic horror movie called Aliens, which is also sci-fi horror. It's rated R, so check with your parents, but I think in today's movie world, Common Sense Media has it more like 15 plus. Next book recommendation is called The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. This is part of the Truly Devious murder mystery series, and I love all of these books. This is the latest books in the series, and Stevie Bell is the protagonist of all those books, and she's a teenage sleuth. She solves murders, and in this one, she is contacted by a man who owns a summer camp, and the summer camp has an unsolved murder from the 1970s, and he wants Stevie to go work there under the guise of being a camp counselor, but he really wants her to try to solve the case and start a podcast about it. And I'm pairing this one with Only Murderers in the Building, which is also about a group of tenants in a New York City apartment building, and they try to solve a murder that happened in their building, and at the same time, they also are starting a podcast. This is a really fun series on Hulu, and it stars Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. And finally, I have two dystopian selections. The book is We Set the Dark on Fire, and this is a dystopian book about a society that is divided by social classes, and all the girls go to school. Only the elite upper class girls go to school, and the only purpose is to get a husband. So the main character, Danny, she's the top student in the class, and she's set to marry someone, and she gets recruited by some rebel spies. So the sequel just came out. I'm excited to read it. And I'm going to pair this with Squid Game. I know it's really popular on Netflix, but I also want to give you a disclaimer: 16 plus on Common Sense Media, so please check with your parents. Thank you, Mustangs. I hope you got some good recommendations, and happy Halloween.